Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Nerdy Multiverse and yet another breakdown. Today we will be breaking down and giving our initial thoughts on the 5th episode of the Ahsoka series. A very action-packed, emotional, nostalgic, and absolutely beautiful episode. This one being titled Shadow Warrior. We start this episode off back on the planet of Cetos as Hera lands at the relic site in the ghost ship, searching the area only to find nothing, until Jacen and Chopper join her outside, where they do end up finding Huyang, who is clearly very upset, and seems to have come to the assumption that Sabine and Ahsoka may have died. And I did point this out before in my previous breakdown on the last episode, but Jacen is wearing Kanan's shoulder piece, which is just an awesome addition in my opinion. We finally cut back to the world between worlds and see what is next for Ahsoka, who has been joined by Anakin Skywalker here in this realm, as they recollect and reunite after so many years, at least in these forms. As of course they did meet each other when Anakin was Vader and stuck inside of the suit. Anakin says that Ahsoka lost a fight and she is here with him to finish her training and to get that chance to live back. A choice between life or death, as he ignites his saber. She tells him that she will not fight him, and he says that he has heard that before. Now, not only is this a little callback to when Ahsoka told Vader that she wouldn't leave him this time, but this is also a callback to when Luke told Vader that he would not fight him, then striking his saber at Ahsoka just for her to block it, as they initiate in an incredible duel, but one that we have to remember is now a part of Ahsoka's training here, as this is all going to be a lesson for her. Cutting back to the group on Cetos as Carson Teva walks in. Of course, a character that has been in nearly every single Star Wars series now, as he says that Senator Organa cannot buy them much more time. Now, there is only one Organa that could be around at this time, as this is after the original trilogy, where Bail and Bria Organa were killed on Alderaan by the Death Star. So of course, Teva is referencing none other than Princess Leia Organa here. Obviously, we don't see her, but just hearing that mention was really cool. Jacen keeps on interrupting Hera and Teva's conversation as he hears something, or morally feels something in the ocean. As Jacen and Hera begin listening to the ocean's waves, he says that he can hear the clash of lightsabers out there. So he can hear and feel Anakin and Ahsoka's duel that is going on right now in the world between worlds. And it seems as if Hera starts to hear it too. Now, this could just be her agreeing with her son, who we know is Force sensitive due to his father's lineage, or it's because she herself has a small connection with the Force, as again, it does live within everybody. So Hera has Teva and the others do another sweep around the area as her and Huyang head into the Ghost to go out and search for themselves. Now back to Ahsoka and Anakin. Continuing their duel, Ahsoka uses her acrobatic skills to get the upper hand in this little spar, but that doesn't do her any good as Anakin has not taught her everything, as he slices the bottom of the bridge, sending her floating and falling through the world between worlds, falling into none other than the time of the Clone Wars as clones start running past a younger version of Ahsoka, who is actually played by the same actress who played the younger version of Gamora in Avengers. Ariana was a great casting choice for Ahsoka here, and she absolutely knocked it out of the park. We do hear that this is one of Anakin and Ahsoka's first ever missions together, and we even see Hayden Christiensen rocking the iconic Clone Wars armor, which we of course saw all the time in Clone Wars. Now, this mission being one of their first ever led me to believe this is where they were on Ryloth during the Clone Wars, and this is basically later confirmed in the next sequence as we do see Twi'lek fighters in the background. And the entire battle on Ryloth during the Clone Wars and their liberation is pretty cool because Hera was actually a part of this as a child, and her father Cham Syndulla was the leader of the Ryloth Resistance against the Separatists, and he even later went on to fight against the Empire Empire. Now in this next sequence, we are in the aftermath of a battle on Ryloth, and we do see some pretty similar scenes to some of the scenes in Clone Wars during this arc, as Ahsoka visits the injured clones and comforts them. Her connection and care for these guys has always been pretty notable, a lot like one of her other mentors, Plo Koon. Anakin comes by and tries to tell Ahsoka that the times have changed. Instead of being trained to be a keeper of the peace, he has to train her to be a soldier. He even mentions his own master, Obi-Wan, and how his training changed along the way as the Clone Wars emerged. Hayden really pulls off the Clone Wars Anakin sort of attitude here as he throws around jokes even during these times, and even tries his best to encourage Ahsoka, even if it means being straight up and serious as well. If she stops fighting, she will die. Separatist droids are approaching, so Anakin gets ready to go and fight with the clones, and most of the clones here are of the 501st Legion. We can even see a special somebody in the background here. When Anakin walks off with the clones and into battle as the explosions blast, he switches back and forth from Anakin and into Vader. This shot was awesome. It represents that they are one and the same, but also it's a great mirror to Anakin marching with the 501st to when Vader marched with Vader's fist, who actually were the 501st, who actually were the 501st themselves. Hera wonders if anyone can actually just disappear into thin air. Hugh Yang says no, not usually. Now this likely doesn't really mean anything, but it did kind of just remind me of when Kenobi died and literally disappeared into thin air. Anyways though, Chopper starts picking up a signal close to the water, so they lower the ghost ship down and begin searching more. As we go straight back into more Clone Wars action. Now with Ahsoka rocking her blue sabers, and if you could not already tell by her outfit and the environment around her, this is the Siege of Mandalore, where she ended up facing Darth Maul in a duel right before the events of Order 66. We even see her taking down some of Maul's Mandalorian super commandos, and these guys had horns on their helmets. Some of these Mandos, specifically Rook Kast and Gar Saxon, were some of Maul's most skilled warriors, even at one point breaking him out of Dooku and Grievous's custody. We end up hearing a familiar voice in the distance as none other than our boy Captain Rex is finally shown in live action. And man, does his design just look perfect here. We can also see that the clones in the background are of the 332nd Company, Ahsoka's own specialized battalion that she was granted in the final season of Clone Wars. Anakin arrives and he says that he does not recognize this battle, as he was not here because this was after the fact that Ahsoka and him parted ways. And the shot here of them standing right next to each other really mirrored the one in Clone Wars, right before they parted ways and she went on this mission. He says that by now she was the warrior that he trained her to be, but she wonders if that is really it. But of course it's not, as she is a part of a legacy, a great line of Jedi. Her, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and his master Qui-Gon Jinn. She recalls Baylan's words to her during their duel, as her part of that legacy is one of death and destruction. But it's more than that, as Anakin is much more than that himself. So it's time to go back to the beginning, and time for another lesson. As Anakin ignites his saber once more, but now with the color red, turning around with his yellow Sith eyes. Practically a version of Vader, but without the restrictions of the suit that Kenobi handed to him on Mustafar after their duel, that left Anakin damaged and restricted for good. As they begin yet another duel between Anakin and Ahsoka, incredible shots and some pretty good choreography. He kicks her back into the world between worlds, where she returns to her present form as he approaches her and flashes from this dark version of Anakin to Vader in the suit. And when he tells her that she lacks conviction, you can hear that this is a mix of Anakin's normal voice and Vader's voice from the suit. Continuing their duel, it's not looking too good for Ahsoka until she sweeps around and gets Anakin's saber for herself. holding it to his neck, as her own eyes glare with the Sith yellow color for just a split second. This was pretty cool to see, and it reminded me of when she was turned to the dark side during the Mortis arc in the Clone Wars by the Sun. But also this shows that Ahsoka also has a version of herself that represents the dark side. It may not exist in reality, but it is out there somewhere. She has always been in the middle sort of space, but mostly light side, but practiced some different things as she did seek vengeance at one point, which is of course not the Jedi way. She deactivates a lightsaber and throws it off to the side, just how Luke did when he was done fighting Vader himself. So Anakin switches back to the normal Anakin, as this was of course all just a lesson for Ahsoka. He tells her that there is still hope for her yet, as the echoes of a storm are heard and he vanishes into thin air. His sudden disappearance here into, well, thin air makes me wonder if this was actually him, or just the actual Force giving Ahsoka a lesson and a vision itself. As the stars move within this realm and the bridges disappear, the water rises where she wakes back up underwater in the real world to be rescued by Hera's crew as she mumbles Anakin's name. I think we may see Anakin a bit more in this season or series, as there are some lines from the trailers that were not said, but those could have been just cut, so we will have to wait and see. Once she wakes up, Huyang tells her that she's been asleep for some time and Sabine is still missing. So they were hoping that she could help them out as he hands her the destroyed orb. She walks outside to the relic site to reunite with everyone and takes note to Jacen's Force abilities before he is sent off with Huyang to explore the T6 Jedi shuttle. As he asks Huyang if he can train him and help him build a lightsaber. This is something that Huyang has done for hundreds of years of course, but he says no to Jacen. Ahsoka uses the Force to feel and listen to the memories and events that happened here with the orb, the location, and where Sabine went. This is a Force ability known as psychometry. Only a few Jedi have been seen using this ability, as it takes quite a bit of skill and power. Quinlan Vos is one of these notable users, and he used this ability often in the Clone Wars whenever he showed up. And Cal Kestis also had this ability in the Jedi Fallen Order games, and now Ahsoka herself has it. She discovers that Sabine went with Baylan and Shin and that she is still alive, so there is still more hope. They just need to figure out how to follow them to the other galaxy, as Ahsoka takes notice of Purrgil flying overhead. Meanwhile, Mon Mothma, a prominent character during all times of the Skywalker saga, speaks with Hera, as a fleet is headed there because Hera and Ahsoka are supposed to return to Coruscant to testify to the Senate. Hera's rank could be up for termination, but they need to find their friends and finish this mission. So Ahsoka walks in and tells them that she knows how to find Sabine and how to get there. If you couldn't already tell, her attitude has completely changed. We started this series off with Ahsoka donning gray robes and having a sort of gray personality, one with little hope and lots of doubt. Now she dons white robes and has a hopeful and happy personality. The normal Ahsoka, the one that we are all used to. She transformed from Ahsoka the Gray to Ahsoka the White, just like how Gandalf did in The Lord of the Rings, of course. Ahsoka and Huyang fly the T6 Jedi shuttle right next to the largest Purrgil that they can find, where Ahsoka exits the ship and approaches it. All while Captain Teva buys them some time and eventually goes on to explain to the New Republic fleet what is going on here. Jacen recalls the stories of the Purrgil that Hera told him of, telling the stories that they took Ezra and the bad guys far, far away. Of course, referencing the end of the Rebels series, when they took Ezra and Thrawn to this new galaxy that we are very close to seeing for ourselves. Ahsoka uses the Force to communicate with the Purrgil. This could be the Force ability known as Beast Control, but also could just be a way to communicate with them, as the Purrgil could have that sort of Force connection themselves. The Purrgil opens its mouth and Ahsoka and Huyang fly their ship inside. They will use this to jump to the next galaxy, or at least try to, as Ahsoka isn't sure where they will actually end up going. But in that hopeful spirit of hers, going somewhere is better than going nowhere. All of the Purgo fly off and pass the New Republic fleet, who get the gist of what's going on now and let them pass. As the whales get ready to jump into hyperspace, Hera says, "May the Force be with you." Probably one of the most iconic lines in Star Wars history, of course. Ahsoka promises to find and bring back their friends as they jump into hyperspace, leaving us to wonder if they are now in the new galaxy or not, as this is where the episode ends off. Overall, this episode was just incredible. It really felt like a return to my childhood. All of the Clone Wars flashbacks, the appearances, all of it was done so well, and it was all perfect. I love how we can actually have these sort of fan servicey things in the series and have it actually be important to the story. Because this episode did so much, and the development for Ahsoka in this episode was absolutely tremendous. The performances by everybody was knocked out of the park. The lightsabers were incredible, and I can definitely see why this was shown in theaters and why it was so hyped up. It truly lived up to it. This was such an easy 10 out of 10 episode for me. Dave Filoni genuinely is the future of this franchise, and he really knows what to do and how to do it, and I cannot wait for next week's episode. But of course, I would like to hear about your thoughts on this episode as well, so make sure to leave them down below. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed our breakdown and review on this episode, don't forget to give it a like. And with that being said, we will see you all the next time that we go through and explore the nerdy multiverse.